My name is James Carter, 35 years old, living in Chicago, and let me tell you, life's been a wild ride. It all began 5 years ago when I met Olivia. She was something else. Brilliant, stunning, with this magnetic energy that drew you in. We fell hard, fast, and before I knew it, we were married just 6 months later. James, you're nuts. My buddy Mike told me. You barely know her. I just laughed. When you know, man. Olivia's the one. For a while, life felt like a dream. We had a sleek penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan and were constantly jet-setting. Paris one weekend, the Maldives the next. Olivia had expensive tastes, but I was doing well, so why not? One day, I suggested, let's go to Lake Michigan this weekend. Just the two of us, like old times. Her eyes sparkled. Oh, James, that sounds perfect. I had no idea that weekend would change everything. We were having the time of our lives, sipping champagne on the beach, laughing about everything and nothing. Then Olivia had this wild idea. Let's go for a midnight swim, she said, already on her feet. I hesitated. I don't know. It's pretty dark out there. Don't be a buzzkill, she teased, slipping into her swimsuit. I watched her wade into the water, her silhouette fading into the night. And then, she was gone. Just like that. I called her name, panic rising in my chest. No answer. I dove in, searching, my heart pounding. Hours seemed to pass, but there was nothing. The next few days were a blur. Police interviews, search parties, endless grief. They never found her body. The official report. Presumed dead by accidental drowning. I was wrecked. Couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The guilt crushed me. If only I had gone in with her. If only I had stopped her. James, you've got to pull yourself together. Mike told me one day. Olivia wouldn't want you like this. He was right. I buried myself in work, trying to escape. I had this idea for a tech startup, something I'd been tinkering with before everything fell apart. Turns out, grief can light a fire under you. I worked day and night, and believe it or not, the company took off. 2 years after Olivia's death, I was on the cover of Fortune magazine. The Phoenix of Chicago business, they called me, rising from tragedy to become a tech mogul. But even with all that success, I felt empty. Like I was living someone else's life. Every time I looked out from my office at the view of Lake Michigan, I thought of Olivia and wondered what she'd make of all this. Life's funny that way. One minute, I'm sitting in my corner office, staring at another award, feeling nothing. The next, everything is flipped upside down. Mr. Carter, someone's here to see you, my assistant said. She doesn't have an appointment, but she's insistent. I sighed, ready to dismiss another eager entrepreneur. Send her in. The door opened, and my heart stopped. It was Olivia. My wife, the woman I had mourned for 3 years, standing there, alive. James, she whispered, her voice trembling. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. It was like seeing a ghost. Tears streaked down her face. I know this is a shock, she said, her voice breaking. I didn't know where else to go. Finally, I found my voice, though it shook. Hal, Olivia, we thought you were dead. She collapsed into a chair, sobbing. I was kidnapped, James, that night at the lake. They held me for years. I just escaped. Kidnapped? It sounded impossible, but as I looked at her, pale, thin, with shadows under her eyes, I wanted to believe her. Why didn't you go to the police? I asked, still struggling to comprehend. I'm scared, James. These people, they're powerful. I need to disappear. Start over. Start a new life. But I have nothing. No money, no identity. Please, James, I need your help. A rush of emotions hit me all at once. Relief, confusion, and yes, the lingering affection that had never fully faded. This was Olivia, the woman I had loved and mourned, the woman I never thought I'd see again. Of course I'll help, I said, grabbing my checkbook without a second thought. Whatever you need. Her eyes lit up, but there was something off about her smile. Before I could think more about it, my phone buzzed. A text from Sarah, my close friend and confidant. Lunch. Got big news. Sarah, level-headed, kind, and sharp. She'd been my rock this past year, and I needed her clear thinking now more than ever. Olivia, I said, standing up. I need some time to process all of this. Can we meet tomorrow? I'll have everything ready to help you then. She nodded, relief washing over her face, but I thought I caught a flicker of calculation in her eyes. I shook it off. An hour later, I was sitting across from Sarah at our favorite deli, my mind spinning. James, Earth to James. Sarah waved her hand in front of my face. You look like you've seen a ghost. I let out a shaky laugh. You have no idea. Then I told her everything. Sarah's expression grew more serious with each word. James, this is a lot to take in, but something doesn't add up. Kidnapping. No police contact. And now she's asking for money. I frowned. You think she's lying? It's not that simple, Sarah said gently. But you need to be careful. Let me look into this before you do anything rash. I've got contacts who can discreetly verify her story. I nodded, grateful for her calm logic. You're right. It's just, seeing her again, Sarah. I never thought. She squeezed my hand. We'll figure this out, James. Together. The next few days were a blur. Every time I woke up in the middle of the night, I half expected it was all a dream. But then I'd remember, Olivia was alive. My wife was back. It should have been a miracle, but something still felt wrong. Finally, I met Sarah for coffee, anxious for answers. Any news? I asked, my leg bouncing with nervous energy. She sighed and pushed a folder toward me. You're not going to like this. I opened it, my stomach dropping with each page. Photos of Olivia. Healthy, happy, and definitely not kidnapped. Attending lavish parties in LA bank statements showing regular deposits from someone named Marcus Thornton. Who's Marcus? I asked, my voice hollow. Real estate tycoon, Sarah explained. Or he was, until his latest project went under. He filed for bankruptcy last month. The pieces fell into place, each one like a punch to the gut. So Olivia's been living it up in LA while I thought she was dead. I said, shaking my head. And now that this guy's broke, she comes crawling back for cash. Sarah nodded grimly. Under the name Emily. Looks like she and Marcus were quite the power couple until his finances crashed. I slumped back in my chair, feeling sick. God, I'm such an idiot. Hey, Sarah said firmly, grabbing my hand. You're not an idiot. You're a good man. You wanted to believe the best in someone you loved. That's not a weakness. I managed a weak smile. What would I do without you? Probably write a big fat check to your con artist ex-wife. She teased, then turned serious again. But we need a plan. Olivia's smart. If she suspects we're onto her, she'll disappear again. We spent the next hour strategizing. It wasn't easy to think of Olivia as an adversary instead of the woman I had once loved, but the evidence was undeniable. Okay, Sarah said finally. We set up a meeting. You play along, act like you're ready to help her. I'll be nearby with a private investigator, gathering final proof. Then we confront her. I nodded, a mix of dread and determination settling in my chest. Let's do it. That night, I called Olivia. My hands trembled as I dialed. James, I was worried you'd change your mind, she said, her voice sugary sweet. No. I forced some cheerfulness into my tone. Just had some business to wrap up. Let's meet tomorrow. I'll have everything ready to help you start fresh. Oh, James, she gushed. You don't know what this means to me. You're my hero. You know that. I bit back a bitter laugh. Once, those words would have melted my heart. Now they just made me angry. Anything for you, Liv, I lied. Lakefront Cafe, noon tomorrow. Perfect, she purred. I can't wait to see you. I hung up, feeling dirty. That night, sleep was impossible. How had the woman I once loved turned into this manipulative stranger? Had she ever really loved me, or was I just another mark in her long con? The next day, I sat at the lakefront cafe, heart pounding as I waited for Olivia to arrive. The lunchtime crowd buzzed around me, but I barely noticed. My focus was on the door. Sarah's voice crackled in my hidden earpiece. Relax, James. We've got eyes on every exit. You've got this. I took a deep breath, straightening in my seat as Olivia walked in. She looked stunning, too good for someone who had supposedly been held captive for years. James, she smiled, sliding into the seat across from me. Thank you for meeting me. I forced a smile. Of course. I've been thinking about your situation, and I want to help. Her eyes lit up, but now I knew the truth behind that smile. I could always count on you, James. You were always so kind, so generous, Olivia said, her voice dripping with sweetness. But before we get into the details of what I need, I'd love to tell you more about what happened. It was terrifying. She launched into her story, her eyes wide and pleading. I listened closely, catching every inconsistency, every vague explanation. And then, I finally managed to escape when they moved me to a new location in Michigan, right? I supplied, watching her closely. Yes, Michigan. It was awful, James. I thought I'd never see you again. Her voice wavered, but I leaned forward, my expression hardening. Funny, I said, because I could have sworn you said Ohio yesterday. Her smile faltered for just a split second. Did I? I'm sorry. It's all such a blur. The trauma, you know. She fidgeted, her hand running through her perfectly styled hair. And these kidnappers, I continued, they let you keep your manicure and highlights while in captivity. Her hand flew to her hair. I got this done after I escaped, to feel normal again. With what money, Olivia? I asked, my tone sharpening. I thought you said you were penniless. Her eyes narrowed, the mask slipping. What are you implying, James? I sighed, dropping the act. I think we both know what I'm implying. Or should I say, Emmeloron. The color drained from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out the folder Sarah had given me, spreading the photos across the table. Olivia at red carpet events, lounging on yachts, arms wrapped around a man I assumed was Marcus. Looks like quite the captivity, I said coolly. Tell me, was the champagne at least decent in your 5-star prison? Her facade crumbled. Tears welled in her eyes, but this time I saw through them. They were as fake as everything else about her. James, please. I can explain, she whispered. Save it. I cut her off. I know everything. How you faked your death, ran off with Marcus Thornton, and lived the high life in LA until his empire crumbled, that is. You don't understand, she pleaded, her voice shaking. I was young, stupid. I thought I wanted excitement, luxury. But I made a mistake. I never stopped loving you, James. I laughed bitterly. Love? You don't even know the meaning of the word. You left me broken, thinking you were dead. And now you're back, not because you care, but because you need my money. That's not true, she cried, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. Isn't it? I said coldly. Tell me, if Marcus hadn't gone bankrupt, would you have ever come back? Her silence was all the answer I needed. That's what I thought. I stood up, my voice hard. We're done here, Olivia. I want you out of my life for good. And don't even think about trying to con anyone else. The FBI will be very interested in Emma Laurent's activities." Her eyes flashed with anger, then fear. "You wouldn't." "Try me," I said, turning away. "Goodbye, Olivia. I hope you get the help you need." I walked out, leaving her stunned and alone at the table. 6 months later, I was adjusting my tie in the mirror, preparing for a charity gala when my phone buzzed with a news alert. Socialite Emma Laurent arrested for multiple counts of fraud. I stared at the mugshot of Olivia. No, Emma, feeling a twinge of, not sadness, exactly. More like closure. "James?" Sarah's voice called from downstairs. "You ready to go?" I smiled, pocketing my phone. "Coming." Sarah looked stunning in a midnight blue gown as I joined her. Offering her my arm, I realized something. The pain of Olivia's betrayal had faded, replaced by something warm and real. As we drove toward the gala, I felt truly happy for the first time in years. The future looked bright, and this time, it was built on honesty and genuine connection. No more illusions. No more lies. Now, here's a question for you. If you were in James' shoes, would you have turned Olivia into the authorities or let her go with a warning? Think about it. She faked her death, left you grieving for years, and only returned when she needed money. But she was also once the person you loved most in the world. What's the right thing to do? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.